Hi, everyone. I have a very special treat for you today. I've got a world-renowned health, fitness, business, and lifestyle expert, motivational speaker, and serial podcaster, and best-selling fitness instructor, Chalene Johnson. Chalene, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited to do this.
Well, I'm excited because this is kind of a two-part interview. We're going to talk a little bit about fitness, get into all the COVID-19, 19 pounds everyone has been adding, myself included. But first, I'd like to talk about you and business. You are quite somebody to watch when it comes to your career. I'm dying to find out what really was going on behind the scenes as you built your fitness empire. So let's start there.
Sure. I guess probably the first thing to address is kind of the misnomer that I started off in fitness, or that was my first business, or that it's even been my most successful business in terms of financial success, I guess you would say. It is by far the one business that's gotten me the most notoriety. That's for sure. So I think most people know me from fitness, but as I like to say, you know me from fitness because I know marketing, and that's really what I've studied and used to launch whatever business interest I have at any given season in my life. But I kind of started off in business. I formed my first company as a freshman in college at Michigan State University, and it had nothing to do with fitness.
What? Okay, so tell us a little bit about that. What was the drive? What was the interest? And why did you jump?
To pay the bills. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it growing up, but my dad was an entrepreneur, and always jumping from one business to the next, and we just didn't have the money to pay for college. So I started a business pretty much before I was even 16. I started flipping cars. So I would buy used vehicles from state auctions in the state of Michigan that were just needed cosmetic attention. Like, I would paint them, I would clean them up, and then I would flip them and sell them and make a couple $100, or then $1,000. And then I would buy a more expensive vehicle and make maybe, $1,500. And I just kept doing that until I had enough money to pay for college. And then once I was at Michigan State, to, pay for my tuition and my living expenses, et cetera, I had to be pretty self-sufficient. So I continued doing the same thing. But I found that there was a real challenge in that it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe for me to be driving to Detroit with a purse full of cash and being like a 19-year-old girl by herself and negotiating with these, grown men in kind of scary areas. And I had an incident that was, it really scared me. And I got out with my life and realized, okay, I need to continue doing this. There's got to be an easier, more convenient way to sell vehicles. I have a problem. I'm going to solve this problem. I'm sure other people have this problem, and I'm going to turn it into a business. So I rented, or leased, I should say, a piece of land from the state of Michigan. And then I promoted these events on the weekends where people who were private sellers would come park their vehicles and kind of be like the salesperson for their own vehicle. And then I just took a small commission of the sales from those private transactions. And that was called the All Michigan Auto Swap Meet. And that, I tell that story because it is the through line of everything that I've done, which is when I am experiencing any kind of a challenge, I always assume there's got to be other people experiencing this too. If I can come up with a solution, I can help people, and in the process, make some money.
That's right. Well, you're a very smart cookie, and you're a hustler. So back in the day, I sold fleet. That's how I got started. So I completely know where you were, and that is a tough business. And being a female, that was even tougher, especially back in the day. So kudos to you for that. All right. So help me with this whole step into your next phase. What did you do after college?
Everything. So like many people who are probably listening, when you know you have the drive, when you know you've got the ideas, when you know you've got like what it takes, you want to do all the things. So I was doing all the things. I was studying to take the studying to take the LSAT to get into law school. I was working as a paralegal. I was trying to host workshops for women who want to work from home. I'd written an ebook. I had a personal training business. I was trying to franchise that. And I was just doing a million things at once, trying to figure out like, okay, well, one of these is going to be successful, or maybe if I do all of these, it'll equal success. I'll make enough money. So I was trying to do all the things without really focusing on any one thing. The thing I was the most passionate about was teaching women how to start a business. Because I knew, gosh, if a 15-year-old girl can do this, I can teach women how to do this at any stage. And that's what I was like, I felt like I was put on this planet to do, is to teach women how to do that. But that particular business at that time, like when I'm in my early to late 20s, it was the business that was costing us money. And I just kept pouring money. I'm like, I know this is it. I know this is it. And it just wasn't. It just kept, putting us further and further in debt. And it was a conversation I had with a mentor that helped me to realize I needed to focus on one thing, not all the things. And I decided, not because of my passion, but because of the opportunity I saw in fitness at that moment, I decided to set something I was very passionate about, but it felt like the timing wasn't right. I set that aside and focused exclusively on fitness until such time that I became known for it. I wanted to maximize that opportunity. But I always say that because I think a lot of business experts tell you to follow your passion. And then you feel like you've done it wrong if you're following your passion, but you're not making money.
Right. Right. Okay. So that was kind of a shock for me, because I would just assume you'd come out here and say, I am a fitness expert. I'm a guru. I eat, drink, sleep, breathe. That's all I wanted to be since I was 8 years old. So very funny. And well, okay. So bum luck. You happen to be what? You hold a Guinness Book of World Records for appearing in the most fitness videos. You've got more than 165 million DVDs sold around the world.
Something like that.
Bummer. You're such a low performer.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I wasn't great at it. I also had, of all the things I was doing, that was the one thing I had the most imposter syndrome feelings about, because I didn't study fitness or exercise or nutrition. I studied justice, morality, and constitutional democracy. I was a student of marketing. I was a student of business. And fitness for me was a solution to a problem. And the problem was, I needed something that would help me to fight off the gene that resulted in most of my family members being overweight and struggling with health issues. And I knew I didn't want to diet. Mm-hmm. So the alternative for me was exercise. And the side effect of that was it made me feel amazing. It helped me to be more confident, more creative, more patient. And knowing that most exercise wasn't that fun, I wanted to create something like really made me feel amazing, like something that was super fun and wasn't so serious. And so by creating that workout, I helped a lot of people who were kind of looking for the same thing, like something that wasn't that serious, but was super intense and super fun and had a lot to do with music and hip hop and kickboxing mixed with these super intense anaerobic drills happened to be the solution for me. And the classes exploded, and I knew like timing on that was kind of everything. And even though I was still trying to build all these other businesses, I knew if I didn't focus exclusively on one thing, I would never be known for anything, And so that's what I decided to do. I built a business at the time that served fitness instructors. So I created a workout program, not my own model, really just looking at the Jazzercise fitness model. Like, what did they do? Okay, they gave women the workout and the music and let them insert their personality. And so that's what I did. I looked at that model and thought, okay, I can do an update on that. I'll give them the music. I'll give them a killer playlist. I'll choreograph the routine to go with the music. I'll package it up and I'll deliver it to fitness instructors. And that just spread. Like, this is before social media. So it spread entirely through word of mouth, just belly to belly, like people telling other people about it. And then we hired representatives in each state to teach that workout to other fitness instructors. And eventually we started a certification company and then an apparel line to go with that. And that caught the attention of infomercial companies.
Right.
And so then we partnered with infomercial companies to bring it to consumers.
Okay. So through that process, because I was going to ask you, how did you scale that business? So you leaned on your marketing and your business savvy to help you scale that. And what was that like? How did you balance your life at that point? Were you just all in 12 hours a day, 18 hours a day, trying to build that, just hustling?
Mm, good question. So the balance was not a factor.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say that, that stage of my life until we sold that business, um, and really deciding to sell the business was the catalyst of hitting, like, so we hit rock bottom. I hit rock bottom personally. I think we hit rock bottom in our marriage because there was no balance. We had two small children. I didn't want to sacrifice time with them.
Right.
So I would wake up at 4 a.m. and I would work. And then I would, try to be a stay-at-home mom with them and try to balance everything and do everything. Even though we had a physical location, we had a headquarters where our employees and our staff were, but I worked from home. My husband worked from home, and we would kind of take turns going back and forth to the office. But then my real work would start when they went to bed. So then I would work until sometimes 4 a.m., like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I was functioning on like a couple of hours of sleep. And in my mind, I thought, well, I have to do this because I've decided this is how I want to raise my children. I want to be present with them. And something has to suffer. Right. So what suffered was my health, what's my mental health, what suffered was my brain health, and what suffered most of all was our marriage. And it just got to a place where it just was, we had all the things, we had the car and the house and the success and the building and, all these things, but I was a zombie.
Yep. Just totally burnt out. Okay.
Yeah.
So you decided to sell the business to save the ship, right?
Yes. To save the most important thing, like Brett and I, my husband, we've been married now for 25 going on 26 years. We just both reached a point. I mean, it was really him. Like I'm the bulldozer in our relationship and in life. I would say he's the guy who sets up the orange cones and makes sure I don't kill anybody or bulldoze off a cliff. But he's often setting up cones for me, and we never really learned to communicate. I don't want to say he never learned, but like, he never felt comfortable telling me this is too much. It's, slow down. But he was getting unhappy. And so I interpreted his unhappiness as we need to do more. Wow. I bet if we had more money, then it would be easier and then he would be happier. So I'll just keep working harder. And we just never communicated on that until one day he literally just came to me and said, I can't do this anymore. I hate our lives. And I was like, I was in shock. I was, I can talk about it like it's any old day now, but at the time it felt like my world was crumbling. I got sick. I felt like, who are you? Why have you never told me this? I thought we were in this together. Like, this is bait and switch. Like, I was so angry and I was so hurt and I was so confused. And I was like, well, but then what do you want? And he's like, I don't want any of this. None of this. Yeah, he let it get to a place where he was very resentful and angry. And I was just numb. So we literally went to a therapist, and the two of us decided, like, none of this is important. We don't care about the house. We care about the employees. We can care about people, but we can remove all of those things as long as we work together to have each other. And we were really very much on the same page in that regard. So we then developed a plan, like, how do we undo this? How do we reverse this? Like, what do we do with this thing that we've built? And we created it was like a 3-year plan to get out from underneath that life and to change the way we operated forever.
Now, did you feel liberated once you said, okay, now we're on the same page. We're going to go to that marker over there. It's going to take a while, but if you'll hang with me, I hear you now. We can speak to one another a little bit more now. We're Did you feel relieved or was it, nah, it was a slow chug chug?
No, I was scared. I was really, really scared. I had no idea. I didn't know if I could handle not being that busy.
Right.
Like, who am I if I'm not going 100 miles per hour? How I didn't think I had value as a person if I wasn't working 24/7. And so I had to do my own therapy to recognize my own addiction. My husband at that time, we discovered he had an addiction. I shouldn't say we. I discovered his addiction, which was gambling.
Okay.
He discovered mine, or I discovered mine. We both discovered or recognized that I was dealing with an incredible work addiction. So those two addictions like really fed off each other.
Mm,
So we both had to get to the root issue of like, why were we trying to distract ourselves, and what was it we need to learn so that pattern wouldn't repeat itself. And I just don't want to sugarcoat it and say like, oh, I was finally relieved. I was so scared. I was uncertain. I was angry. It took a long time. It was a really hard, painful journey. My friends didn't even know I was going through that, really. I just always wanted to present like
oh,
it's
everything.
all good. I didn't know if we would stay together. I mean, I had a very small handful of friends, and when I say like two people who knew about the addiction and knew about my husband's gambling. When I discovered we were $500,000 in debt, and
That
I didn't realize it.
that's very scary.
Yeah, so it was a process, but every day, every time we went to therapy separately a lot, every time things got better, and the more we communicated and the more I learned about myself and where that came from, and he learned about himself. Like, that's the most valuable thing I could tell anyone to do, is to, like, you know deal with your demons. And because they'll surface at some point, and your children or your most important relationships shouldn't suffer
Right.
needlessly.
Right. Well, I think that's very brave of you to say that, but I love it. Obviously, I have mentors on. I say, we all know there's the glamorous side of to whatever you do, the people that I interview, but there's also the real side. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. We all have
Mhm.
the same issues, and some people are better at masking issues or figuring it out. But if you don't have a strong foundation and
Yeah.
check in all the time with your partner or whoever you've got,
Hmm.
it can all crumble. So I'm glad that you're saying that. So you decided to sell. Then what? What happens next? Were you just kind of a fish out of water going, if I go for the next thing, am I going to go back into the same addiction? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, we together recognized how much fun we had working together, but we just needed systems in place. We needed boundaries, we needed personal rules, we needed guidelines for our marriage, guidelines for our mental health, guidelines for our family, and that was first and foremost. And then we had to stick to them, and we had to teach ourselves how to recognize when we were slipping, and those boundaries made it really, it's just so much more fun to build every business we've built together since then. So since that time, we've had together, we've built um, 7-figure plus businesses in 7 different industries, a variety of industries, and built them in a completely different way, like a completely different way. And if I could just kind of summarize it, it would be to say that we build things so that we don't have to do all the things, as tempting as it is to do all the things, like building a team, building systems, building an infrastructure, building things that could be replicated and duplicated without us having to do all the things. And then just having very strong personal policies for the two of us. By that, I mean things like we don't travel more than twice a month for work. We don't do more than one new thing each month. And when I say new thing, like, I mean, if I'm doing a webinar and it's something I haven't presented before, that's new.
Mm.
If I'm going to take on something new that I want to study, I can only do one a month, because otherwise I'll go crazy and I'll want to learn something new every single week, and I'll want to launch a new business every single month. And we just have to set up those boundaries for ourselves and then stick to them. There were boundaries with regard to talking about work, and boundaries with regard to sleep, and personal policies when it came to things that we would say yes to and things that we would say no to. And we put all of that in writing.
Mm. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because if you don't put it in writing, the first time this amazing opportunity comes your way, you say the same thing everyone says, which is,
Yeah.
man, I can't do this right. I don't have the bandwidth to do this, but I bet this isn't going to come along again. I'm just going to say yes to this, or we'll just work our butts off until this point, or once I hit this stage, then we'll slow down. But that just never happens. So if you don't put those things in writing, and that yourself, that you're going to get caught up in the excitement of opportunities, then those boundaries don't mean anything because you're always making exceptions.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so I have to ask, where do you get your energy?
Oh, wow. Um,
Yeah.
people, yeah, I think fitness for one is a really big piece of that. So,
Right.
so for example, I don't schedule any interviews before 11:30 a.m. My mornings are very structured. I've learned that time is mine. And that's you. If I'm going to give my best to the world, I have to take care of myself in the best way possible. So my energy comes from sleep, comes from my faith. My energy comes from eating right and exercise. Like, energy begets energy. So like on the days randomly, which is very rare, that I don't exercise, I feel much lower energy. And so I exercise because I want to be high energy. I want to be more creative, more productive. I want to have clarity. I want to have patience. I want to feel alive, and I want to take care of the gift that God's given me.
Well, you definitely radiate great energy. So I love that. Let's talk a little bit about your business and leadership. How important is leadership in a business if you were talking to someone looking to say, okay, I just want one business? How important is that? And where did you learn your leadership skills for your businesses?
Mm. That's a great question. I used to say that anyone could be an entrepreneur. I don't know that I believe that to be true in the sense of being a leader. I think that some people are definitely cut out to be leaders and can be better leaders. And I think there are those, but I do believe everyone has the ability to make income online. I don't think that everyone is cut out necessarily to be a great leader, because it is hard and it takes a lot of work and it takes a dedication to it. I think the number one thing a great leader does is they read and they self-assess and they apologize and they say, I messed up and I want to be better for you. Because people work much harder for recognition and praise than they do a raise. People, we, especially women, and I tend to work with a lot of women, we don't usually do it for the money. We do it because we want to feel significant, and helping somebody to see their significance is really important. And it's a skill, because we just assume, people know that they're valued. They know that I need them. They know that they're important. But we still need to hear it. So becoming a better business owner, a better entrepreneur, when you have a team, requires spending a lot of time studying leadership
Right.
more than anything.
Right. Right. Well, I talk to a lot of successful business owners, and one thing that we all talk about, and we ask one another, what is your company culture like if you're running a company? How important is that to you? And what would you say your company culture was like throughout your businesses? And maybe it's changed.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely has changed. Definitely has changed. And we've gone through seasons, right? So, but I think there's been some pretty consistent through lines, and those are family is first. There's just, regardless of the laws in the state of California, if you come to me and it's something related to family, there's no questions asked. I don't believe that the standard 9 to 5 is how you get the best out of people. I think, how could I tell people you need to work 9 to 5 and have this structure, when what it is I teach, because, we haven't touched upon this yet, but once we sold our fitness company, and I still partner with Beachbody to do fitness programs, but our primary source of income, our primary focus in all of our businesses is teaching marketing and teaching people how to start a business and teaching people how to scale a business. And if I've got a team of people who I'm teaching them, like, that's freedom.
Right.
And they're like, but I'm an employee. it would be very hypocritical. So we have a culture where people feel like it's their own business. And I want you to structure your day as for our team. I want them to structure their day so that they can give me and our customers the very best. And if that means you need the mornings free and you're most productive in the evenings, great. Then you work like you get your stuff done. And if you can do that in 15 hours and we're paying you for 40, so be it. Right. Like, I don't think that we should penalize people because they work fast
Right.
or they're very efficient. So part of the culture here is it's got to be healthy. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be healthy mentally, physically, family first, big sense of humor, lots of camaraderie. And we don't take ourselves too seriously. I want people to like just every day to go like, okay, I love what I'm doing, or I don't love what I'm doing. I want to try something different. So there's a lot of experimentation that's allowed. Everyone's voice matters. We represent our customers. So everyone's opinion and their beliefs and their input is incredibly valuable. And it's how we've been able to continue to scale the business.
That's very important. It's rare. That's how my husband and I also built a few businesses and the same thing. And people say, why would you call that person if they don't have the title? And I said, I don't care what the title is. They're a person, they have an opinion, and they're actually pretty observant. So you need to listen to everybody in different seats. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Build a strong company. Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's get into, I recently signed up for your latest programs. Would you like to share what they are? And I've got a million questions. I have viewers and listeners that wrote me questions to ask you about fitness. Again, COVID-19 has done a number on a lot of us. I see people on TV, newscasters. I'm like, wow, your clothes are getting a little tight. This and that. Can't fit in half of my clothes. It's been terrible. Help. So let's talk about Phase It Up.
Thank you. Well, Phase It Up it's an evolution of my own journey. Again, like kind of solving my own problem as a fitness professional, as someone who had to be in front of the camera and had to be as lean as humanly possible, leaner than what my body really should be, than what it was designed to be. I did a lot of really unhealthy things in order to achieve that. There were times where I exercised like 4 hours a day. And I mean, just like a little bit, like for months and months and months, 4 hours a day, surviving on very few calories that had zero nutritional value to them, like sugar-free, fat-free, protein packs, like just dumb diet food, because I thought that was fitness. That's what people wanted to see, was someone who was so ripped and so lean that it was, quote, inspirational, but it wasn't healthy. And on top of that, I wasn't sleeping much. And I had a brain scan at the Amen Clinic. And when I had the scan, they discovered that my brain was like almost 10 years older than my age, and that I was headed for Alzheimer's, and that I had a lot of inflammation in my brain and toxicity that showed up on the SPECT scan. And I just was in shock. I mean, I had no idea. I was like, wait, I'm a health professional. How could this be? And I literally, like, that day said, oh, okay, stop. Like, I have no business telling others how to be fit and healthy. If I really know nothing about nutrition, I've just been regurgitating what everybody else says. And how do I know any of these things are accurate? Like, I research everything. Why haven't I done any research when it comes to nutrition? Like, this one area I've just, thrown my hands up and repeated what I heard other experts say. And how do I know any of that's accurate? So because I had a podcast at that time with, millions of downloads, I had the good fortune of being able to like call experts and medical doctors, and they would say yes to interviews. And I could kind of use that to pick their brains for my own knowledge, for my own use. And I went on like about a 3-year journey to figure out, like, what am I supposed to be eating? What are any of us supposed to be eating? Like, what is health? How do I live longer? What weight am I supposed to be at? How do I manage all of this? Like, how much exercise is too much exercise? Like, I don't know the answers to all of this. I was just always going by, like, what do people want to see?
Yeah.
And that process led me to realize that it is not as simple as we'd like it to be. It's very unique and personalized for each and every person. And I created a methodology to help people understand their diet and how to customize it. And as that program evolved and grew, we soon realized like that's part of the problem. But the other half of the problem is like once people figure that out, like how do you teach them the habits to
Right.
make it stick?
Right. So you combine psychology and habits, put them together. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So Phase It Up is an online program that helps people. It gives you the structure to figure out how you're supposed to be eating for who you are in this moment, like right now. Maybe you just found out that you have cancer. Maybe you are trying to get pregnant. Maybe you are perimenopausal. Maybe you are just going through an incredibly stressful time. Well, each one of those conditions creates a different hormone effect, and therefore you need to be eating differently. We need to eat in what we call phases, or if you think of it as almost seasons, and we call them almost like seasons of life. So the way that I would be eating and the nutrition that I need when I'm under a great deal of stress is very different from how I might be eating if I'm on vacation, or if I don't feel that level of stress and my adrenals aren't being taxed. And we teach people how to know that about themselves, like how to figure that out, like how to know what's going on, and then how to adjust your diet accordingly. And that's the nutrition component of it. So the phases go like they're 4-week phases, and you do a quiz to figure out like what phase you should be in, and then you learn the signs of when you need to change phases and which phase is best for you. But the whole program is held together by teaching how to create habits by using the science of habit. And, to piggyback that onto your first question about, COVID and the pandemic and why people have gained so much weight, like that to me it's so clear why that's happened. And it is because our triggers have been disrupted. The things that we used to anchor our habits to, they're gone or they've been changed. And so we're trying to just like forge forward with the same behaviors without recognizing we need new triggers. And we've got to restructure our habits in order to make, the most of the current situation that we're all in.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Okay, so I'm going to read you a few questions that people have that they've sent. So I have one of my listeners was saying, please ask Chalene about metabolism. I'm in my 40s. When does menopause set in? Does that change the way I should eat, exercise? I know that we've got that middle belly coming on. How do I fight that? What do I do? I'm a girl, not a guy. How's that?
That's awesome. Yes, I love it. Like ladies, once we hit like 40, I mean, I just think we all start having these little conversations with ourselves in the mirror and then with our closest girlfriends, like what is going on? Why am I getting thick? Why is my hair getting thin? Why don't I feel like myself? Why is it so much harder? I haven't changed anything. I haven't done anything. So a couple of things I want to talk with regard to metabolism, because it isn't the same for everybody. So you have to kind of go through that checklist for yourself. First and foremost is genetics, right? So it's interesting to know when your mother went through menopause, because that will give you some insight as to when you're likely to go through it. If your mom went through it late, you're likely to go through it later yourself. That those genetic components are, what the expression of those is our epigenetics. So like, what are you doing that may be able to prolong the stage before you go into menopause? What are you doing to improve your genetic disposition, if you will? And so that's first. And then the second is your nutrition. Yep. So as we age, our bodies do not absorb the same nutrients from our food. Even if you're eating perfect, your body does not absorb the same nutrients that it once did. As we age, we get a more leaky gut. As we age, our body just does not absorb those nutrients. And when our bodies aren't absorbing those nutrients in the gut, which is where our hormones are produced, majority of them, then you're not producing those hormones. So if that happens, and you, even though genetically, maybe you weren't supposed to be going through menopause right now, but like genetically, because you're not getting the right nutrients, let's say, for example, you start producing less estrogen or less progesterone or less testosterone, which is always happening as we're aging, but it can happen much faster. if we don't have the proper nutrients to make those. Those vitamins and minerals are so essential in making those hormones. And that's why I always tell women, like, as you get older, you have to supplement. And I used to be like anti-supplement, like, I'm going to get it from my food. I'm going to get it from my food. Especially once I started digging into nutrition and realizing like that's where our nutrients should be coming from. But then I started doing blood panels on a regular basis to figure out like, okay, I'm eating perfectly. How come my vitamin D is low? I'm eating enough dark leafy greens. Is my vitamin C low? Why is my vitamin K, like, why is my B off? Like, why? And it's because I'm not absorbing those nutrients the way that I need to. It's because our food isn't as nutrient dense as it once was. So I've got two options. I can have that affect my energy and my hormones, or I can supplement. Right. And so I just had to realize like, okay, I've got to supplement. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But then understanding like why it's so important as we age that we look at supplementation, number one. Okay. And then the third factor is you got to test. Like, we have to stop just going like, oh, this is just age and I'm tired, or this is just what I have to deal with. Oh, shoot, I don't want to go through menopause. Like, no, go figure out what your hormone levels are. And why don't you consider doing hormone therapy, like looking at bioidentical hormone replacement so that you feel very much like you did when you had a higher level of estrogen or a higher level of testosterone. And when you do that, the body shifts where it's holding on to body fat and what body fat it can let go of. It's kind of a magical thing. But if you don't have those other lifestyle components in place, and then you start to enter perimenopause, that menopausal stage just before we lose our period. So menopause is defined as going 12 months without a period. Right. But there's this long stage for some women. They enter it as early as 35.
Wow.
And they start having signs of, hot flashes or moodiness, headaches. I think a big one that I think a lot of doctors fail to address is low-level nausea. So if you think about if you're experiencing low-level nausea, which is, it's kind of like morning sickness, right? And everybody knows what that feels like. But the reason why we experience nausea when we're pregnant is because of a drop in our progesterone. And the same thing happens as we become perimenopausal. Like there's that drop in progesterone, which kind of makes you feel like nauseous. And when you're feeling nauseous, you don't feel like exercising. Right. And you feel like eating to figure out like, will this make me feel better? And so now you've got this downward cycle of like, I don't feel like exercising. I feel like eating. I feel like crap. And now mentally I've put on 5 pounds. So now I'm really angry with myself and frustrated, and it can just create this cycle, but you can turn it around. But it's most important that women get those pieces in place before you hit menopause, so that, if you do experience the 10-pound weight gain that a lot of women do once they become menopausal, you can correct it. It's much easier by doing hormone replacement.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay. I've got another question. You've kind of answered this. Why don't diets work for women?
Diets don't work for women because they do work for women for a short period of time. And then our bodies have this thing, they're really smart, called homeostasis. So we've all experienced this where like a diet worked and you're like, oh, I found it. Like forever, I'm going to be keto, or like forever, I'm going to be zone, or whatever, insert the name of your diet. And then we're like super excited, like I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And then for 97% of women, it stops working. Mm-hmm. And what do? We go, why? It must be me. I'm going to do it harder. I'm going to eat less. And then the metabolism slows, and we just keep trying to restore that homeostasis. So it's funny how we know this to be true for fitness. We know with fitness, if you're doing the same thing day after day after day, your body plateaus, and eventually you're going to start to gain the weight back, which is why we have to cycle it, right? We have to phase our workouts. We cycle our workouts. And the same is true of our nutrition. Our ancestors did not eat the same way all year long. They phased their diet seasonally. They were forced to due to nutrient availability. But although food has evolved and it's anything you want is available to you, but our bodies haven't really evolved. Right. And they're still going to perform the best when we're phasing. But it's so hard. Oh my goodness. It is so hard to get people to do that. We're so afraid to change because we're like, but this worked for me at one point. Yeah, I know I'm gaining weight now like crazy and I'm eating less and less and less, but it once worked for me. And we're so afraid of certain foods. And I just tell women, like, if it ain't working, you gotta change it up. You gotta phase your diet.
Yep. That's right. That's right. Well, I love the text that I get with this program. It is actually a good motivator. So this morning, case in point, I'm a live case study for you. This is the before picture. I'll send you the after picture. So I did not want to get up and work out this morning. I had 50 million calls to make. I didn't want to get up and work out. And I rolled over and I saw the text. I didn't open it last night. I got it this morning and I was like, oh, and I'm talking to Chalene. I need to get up and get moving. So I did double workout this morning saying, all right, I've earned the right to sit here in the chair and talk to you today about a little bit about fitness. So thanks for that motivation.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's a unique component to phase it up again, like playing into that habit, right? So that text message for you becomes a trigger, and that's an option. Like, you don't have to have a text message from me every day, but you can set it up where you can set up the time that you receive it, and that can become a trigger. And the reason why I rolled that into this program is because for me personally, I use an automated system of text messages to remind me to do a lot of really important things that otherwise, like, my day goes by. I literally have a text message reminder that comes to my phone every day at a variety of different times, just to remind me to check in on my husband and see how his day is going, because he's so good at that and I'm horrible at that. I forget to check in with him and tell him I love him and see how his day is going, even though we're like he's upstairs right now and I'm downstairs. And so that text message for so many people, like, our phones grab our attention. So if we can use that to our advantage to trigger a healthy habit, it's a win.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So it helped me this morning. And I think, okay, didn't miss a day. I'm going to
Love
keep.
hearing that.
Thank you very much for that. So let's pop back into mindset. Mindset. So what do you think the three best qualities or characteristics of your personality have helped you succeed in everything that you've tried throughout your career? Got to be a through line somewhere.
Yeah. Number one is I have an insatiable curiosity. I want to know more, 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 more. I want to know more about people. I want to know more about everything. So I read usually 2 books a week. And I say read, but I really mean I listen. Like, audiobooks change my life because you can play them on hyper warp speed or whatever tempo you need. So I read an incredible amount. If I'm not reading a book, then I'm listening to an audio program. I'm a learner. I'm a student. And the second quality is I'm a teacher. And that is the through line of my whole career. Is I believe that God put me on the planet to teach. And I think because of my ADD, I struggled as a student, which I think makes me a good teacher, because I understand, like, the different ways people need to hear a message in order to absorb it and to learn it and to understand it and to break it down. And then I think the third piece for me is that you've got to be humble. If you're not humble, then you're going to be humbled. And to be humble means to apologize. It means to know that you're human. It means to know that you are flawed and you have the ability to improve. And I think that just has helped me to always go, there's room for improvement, but not in such a way that, like, it's affected my confidence. I think it's fun to improve. I think self-improvement is a pretty cool hobby to have.
Yeah. Well, life is about improving. You're learning a lesson, and guess what? Then a little while after that, you're going to learn another hard lesson, and that's how we grow, right?
Right. We hope.
Oh, well, you're going to keep learning the same lesson over and over again until you figure it out, I think.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so I'm going to take you back. I have 3 questions that I love to ask everybody. Think back to your 27-year-old self. What one thing would you tell your 27-year-old self? I wish I would not have wasted so much time on X.
Thinking that I needed the credit.
Hmm.
So I think the mistake that I made is I would do so much, not because it gave me joy or I was a nice person, or I wanted the credit for all. Like if I was throwing a big party, from perfect example for my own wedding, we had a wedding with like I think 250 people, and I made every single centerpiece.
Wow.
Why? I didn't do it to save us money. I did it so that I could say I did it, so I could get credit for that. But I think about like, oh man, I didn't even get to enjoy like the night before my wedding and the week of my wedding because I was so consumed with making these stupid centerpieces because I wanted credit. There's so many things I did in our marriage 1.0, before we sold the business that I should have hired a team to do. I didn't have any business doing those things. I could have got more sleep. I could have spent more time with the kids, but I was so consumed with, I didn't want to give it to anyone else to
Mm.
do because I want to be able to say, I did that.
Mm.
And that was just, having to really look at my ego and go like, this is not serving me. And this is costing me so much time and nobody cares, So that would be the probably the lesson it took me the longest to learn. I wish I had learned it earlier.
Okay. So flip that on its head. Same thing. 27-year-old self. I wish I would have spent more time on X.
Hmm. I wish I would have spent more time sleeping.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh
if you
God, yeah.
only got a couple hours every night, I think that kind of trickles down into all kinds. And you were a mother as well. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I will often hear from moms who are like, well, what do I do? I can't sleep. Like my kids are up all hours and it is hard. It's really, really hard. And I remember maybe you do too, like when people would say like, oh, when your kids are napping, you should nap.
No way.
I was like, who's that? Like, man, I mean, I don't know. I wish I had. I wish I had spent more time sleeping because I do think it took a toll on my patience at that time and my decision making.
Mhm.
I know it took a toll on my health. So I wish I had slept more. I
Okay.
wish I had slept more, and I wish I had hired more people sooner. Like, gosh, team is everything. Like your dream expands as your team expands.
Okay. That's great advice. Best piece of advice you ever got.
Focus on one thing until you become known for it.
Okay.
Best piece of advice and the hardest piece of advice. I didn't want to focus on fitness. It was the thing I was probably the least confident with. It was the thing I had passion for, but not like a burning passion like I did for teaching marketing. But so to hear that and to just keep repeating that over and over and over in my head, don't do that next thing until you become known for this thing was hard. But it really pays off. And it's the advice that I share with all of my students in all of my academies. All of our members know because it's really tempting in today's environment, right? Because you see so many things on social media, like someone's starting a podcast and someone's launched a journal business and somebody's got their own whatever. And so you want to do like all these things and like, oh, this person's holding an event and you want to do it all and you feel like you can. But when you do all those things, you confuse your audience. And when you confuse, you lose. You want to be the person who's known for one thing. So when people say, like, oh, hey, I had to wait until I got to the point where people said, do you know Chalene Johnson? No, she's the fitness person. Oh, she's that fitness person. Which is crazy to me to think that someone would ever even say that about me because I always thought of myself as the car girl. You know what I mean? But I had to be known for one thing, and it takes determination and discipline. But if you stick to one thing until people know you for that thing, then you have permission to branch off into other areas and other things.
Great advice. Great advice. Guilty pleasure.
Roller skating.
Okay. Favorite cheat food.
Wait, I have to know what your guilty pleasure is.
I well, for a while, I've stopped doing it. For a while, I watched reality show which is so funny because there's, I have my own thoughts about that. It's like a big time suck and it takes you away somewhere else. But when I would get so busy, crazy, and I wanted to tune out for a half an hour or whatnot, sometimes an hour at night, I would turn on reality shows. And then after a while, I go, what am I doing? I'm trying to get peace and quiet and I'm turning into people throwing wine and
I don't know. I'm that's a daily requirement for me. Like if I don't get a daily dose of people whose lives are a hot mess, like that's just fun for me. I find that very entertaining. So I don't even consider that a guilty pleasure. I consider that mandatory viewing.
Okay. All right. So favorite cheat food?
Well, I don't believe in that concept. I think so. I can't. I don't have a cheat food. A decadent treat might be for me flan.
Oh,
I love flan, but when it comes to cheating, I think that cheating is a word we should use for people who sleep with other people's partners. I don't think we should assign. I don't like assigning morality to food, even though I know that's a common term. People say cheat day or cheat food. I'm like, just make room for it.
okay. All right. All right. Um, well, favorite workout right now?
Um, yeah, what's my favorite workout, but I can't do it right now is I love running. Because it's meditation for me. It's solitude, which I love. It is, it just feels amazing. But at the moment I hurt my ankle, so I'm not able to run. So at the moment, what I love doing is heavy strength training. I love heavy strength training. I love building muscle. I love seeing my shape change. I love knowing what it does for my metabolism. I love how strong it makes me feel.
Right. Right. And you think building the older you get, the more muscle that you build is better than overdoing it on cardio, or you think it should be 50-50?
No, 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 no. I mean, if you have to pick,
Yep.
strength training, because strength training, you are going to get your cardiovascular effect from it. You're going to build the metabolic materials that you need to increase your resting heart rate, to increase the amount of calories you burn at rest. It changes your shape. Cardiovascular exercise is great because we need it for our heart. But I think that most people over cardio, and they do it to the extent that they don't realize that they're damaging their adrenals,
Yep.
and they've been doing it for so many years, for so long, and then it stops really kind of working. So then they're doing it longer and longer and longer, and they're just destroying their adrenals. And I always tell people, just take a break, phase it,
Hmm.
try some heavy strength training, or try just a different workout. Try something that's shorter and more intense, or something that's, you just got to change it up. You can't be doing the same thing day after day.
After day. All right. Last question. At the moment, what does happiness look like to Chalene?
Yeah. Happiness doesn't have a look for me. Happiness is a feeling.
Yes.
So for me, it's a feeling of peace and contentment, just like where I wake up and I've got a smile on my face, and I'm not at all worried about the day. I'm looking forward to everything that's on my calendar. I'm looking forward to doing a podcast like you. Like, this is the highlight of my day this morning. I look and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so fun. Like, that for me is success. And it's not the car that I drive or the house that I live in. Like, those things are nice, but I've had all of those things before and not felt peace. So I certainly wasn't, I didn't, I didn't know it at the time, but that wasn't happiness. This is happiness. And that's a feeling.
Love that. Love that. Well, Chalene, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I could talk to you all day. I wish you the best. And hopefully you and I can go for a run together out there in your neck of the woods when you're
That would be great. I would love that.
all right. Have a wonderful day. Stay well.
Thank you.